Hello and welcome. Thank you all for being here today. I'm Nick Rohn, Director of Technology for the Asset Leadership Network, and I am excited for a special program today, ALN Pilot Project Network Launch Program featuring two of our organizational members. And hopefully you're familiar with Kimon Onuma and Cyril Verley. And before we get to them, we just want to thank our patron members, especially Onuma, but Jacobs, Mantech, ABS Quality Evaluations, and CGI, and all our organizational members, especially Collectus, 26 Degrees, and Cyril Verley, as well as all our organizational members. We really do want to increase this list, so please reach out, and we'd love to work with you and maybe partner in a pilot project, as we'll showcase here today. So that's just one of the many ways we would love to work with more organizations. And we have some upcoming events. Even tomorrow, we have ALN Thursday at 3 with Moshe Nelson. You may also be familiar with Moshe. He's been a part of the ALN for some time, and we are speaking with him again tomorrow as a Guidehouse partner. And then we also have a program on May 1st with Christina Benti. And she is former mayor of Golden, so always has a lot of unique insights from that unique past. And so hopefully see you at some of those programs upcoming. And with that, we'll bring in Executive Director Mike Bordenero to say more. Oh, we also have upcoming A55K trainings. So please reach out to Lindsay Ziegler or me or Mike if you have questions about that. And Mike, I put in another slide, but I'll just go back to this one.
That's perfectly fine, Nick. Thank you. How are things going in Lander, Wyoming?
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, a little bit of a rainy day, but it was kind of needed after so much heat.
You guys have been snowing and raining and heat. It's crazy.
All manner of wonderment.
Yes. So, yes, you said this is a special program. Yes, this is the launch of the ALN Pilot Project Network. And we already have one pilot project going, and Kimon Onuma is working on that. It's going to be bringing Cyril Verley into it. He'll be getting to that. And the idea is to expose owners to the ways our members can work together to solve problems in ways that the owners don't even realize are possible. Tools and processes are changing so quickly that it's impossible for owners to keep up with the technology developments, and the ALN is reaching out to figure out ways to help owners do that, and our members have wholeheartedly supported this pilot project approach. And in addition to the pilot that we're already starting with an engineering company in Portland, Oregon, Kimon and Cyril and many of our members have already been doing virtual pilot projects, because it's not always possible to do a real project, but we can, we've landed temporary hospitals in the parking lot of University Health in San Antonio. We have dropped portable electric, solar electric grids in Ukraine to help with hospitals. These are all virtual capabilities to show what's possible. And owners will be able to reach out to the Asset Leadership Network, say they're interested in a certain result, and we will put together the team members that we think can demonstrate those capabilities and demonstrate that in a pilot for the owners. And thank you all for joining and your interest in this. So why don't we just get right into it. Cyril is going to be presenting first. Welcome, Cyril.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Nick, how are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you again. Where are you today, Cyril?
Currently in Newport Beach, California.
Okay.
So, yep, it's a beautiful day here. We wish we were in Malibu, but due to the fires, we're in Newport Beach.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not complaining. It's good. We love Malibu, but the Newport Beach is terrific. It's a beautiful spot here.
So Cyril's been our guest frequently, but for those who don't know, he is an architect who is now a software developer, and when his kids left the nest empty, Cyril's wife and he decided to get into an Airstream and be able to drive around to all the grandkids. And
That's right.
yeah,
That's right.
so that's why I asked where he's at. You never know where Cyril is.
No, my company has been around since in terms of Revit since 2002, and we've been virtual literally since 2005, 2006. So that it didn't make sense to, everything that we have is in the cloud. All our data, all our models, the work that we do with our clients, it's all virtual. And so we were able to do just that. And we've traveled across the country 7 times, and we still continue to work, and it's all good. So
excellent.
Yeah, great stuff.
So Cyril and Kimon are going to show some of the things that owners can learn and understand about how to specify new processes. A big log jam here, we're finally announcing and just saying it. Owners aren't asking for the right stuff.
Right.
That's
exactly.
the issue. We can't do anything unless the owners ask for the right work. And
exactly.
So Cyril and Kimon are going to be showing how they have demonstrated to owners new tools and processes that they can be doing. So go ahead, Cyril.
Exactly. So I would imagine I should begin with this video, Kimon. Or
did you click on the allow sound button?
I didn't. I've got the
right,
video
so
here. Allow sound.
Stop sharing and restart the share.
Okay. Stop sharing.
While you're doing that, I'll say that Kimon and Cyril have built a Collectus tower to show how the assets that are planned and designed to go into a building can have their information extracted from a model and be ready for commissioning, operations, and maintenance immediately, instead of waiting for the usual 12 to 18 months, 2 years to get that information together. So go ahead, Cyril. Did you?
Yep. So here, again, I'm clicking the.
There's an audio button.
Share sound. Got it. Perfect.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Okay. I'll play this video. I'm clicking. Okay, there we go. Sound is good.
Yeah.
Trapped in the walls. For gray sides, no sight at all. Tied to the desk, locked and tight. Black box holds, steals the light. But then the cracks start showing, the walls start blowing, the locks are breaking, the codes unfolding. The cage no more, the doors swing wide, the owner's free, the data's alive. No more trapped, no more blind, buildings awake, the network's aligned. See it now, the walls are clear, what was hidden reappears. Them twin wires unlock, powered by the interoperable building box. Cage no more, the chains come down, buildings connect, city-wide sound. From BIM to twin, we light the way, get it, use it, the future's today.
Okay. Next page. Okay, so again, my name is Cyril Verley. The intention of that video was created while Kim and I were at the NFMT show in Baltimore a few weeks back. And the intention being to try to offer the perspective that the data that the owners have and should have and have access to needs to be open. And we're going to go through this in this presentation. Obviously, Kimon and I both in California, and with the recent fires that we had, both Kimon and I and thousands of people had this application called Watch Duty. And what it was an actual map that showed the live status of all the fires that were going on in California. And here, this is actually the image of a plane flying around the fire. And there's a photograph of the plane dropping the fire retardant material. But what was crazy was that and we used this map because we were in Malibu. We saw the fires approaching. They came within 150 yards of where we were. We were able to move our home and drive 130 miles away. But what was remarkable is that the key was having a map that was easily accessible on your phone and have the data that's live. And that was the key. So that's the perspective of what we're trying to do and incorporate this into buildings. So while we were at the NFMT show in Baltimore, we created a map of the event, and we actually took an entire campus of buildings and placed it at that location. So what we want to do is we're going to have you actually try this map, this digital twin, on your phone. If you recall, a few months back, there was an escape of all these monkeys out of this lab in South Carolina. And what we've done is we've taken these monkeys and we've placed them into this campus of buildings inside this digital twin. So what we'd like you to do is, using your phone, scan this QR code. It's going to bring you to a page that says click go. And from there, you can actually see this a Google map on your phone of a campus of buildings. Ideally, this would be your campus. And then if you decide to choose a particular building, you can search through, you can actually pick the buildings on the map, or you can pick from the list in the top left corner where it says Biotech Lab. And from there, you can actually search, you can find the building, the level, the room, and on the technician side, you can find whatever asset information you want within that building. The intention is we want to make it easy to actually find information about the building. The broadest view is there are three critical things we want to find in the building at any moment, at any time. We want to find rooms, we want to find asset, and we want to find people. And Kimon's going to be talking about that a little bit later. So here, after you've located the particular building, level, and room, you can actually submit a work order. If you scroll down, this is a CMMS application as an example of a digital twin based on a map. And you can submit a work order at the bottom and let us know where you found those monkeys, because the monkeys are hidden within this map. The Collectus Tower has some monkeys spread through the building. Other projects or other buildings have monkeys there. The monkeys are graphic. The monkeys have names inside the rooms. You can sort of scroll through and try to find those monkeys. This again.
I checked the lab. I didn't see any monkeys in the lab.
Look at the first floor. Look at the first floor of the Collectus Tower. There you'll find, I think, a monkey's there.
Okay, I'll go there now.
As an example. So we want to describe the path to this idea of having a digital twin. And keep in mind, there's two paths that are possible. One is the consolidation of your existing data. So oftentimes owners have this perspective of, we've got to build everything in Revit that exists. That's in an ideal world with unlimited funds and time. Sure, that would be a great thing. But oftentimes owners don't have that opportunity. So instead, here, the idea is to take all these various silos of specific data types, Excel files, PDFs, CAD files, legacy BIM, and consolidate that into a digital twin. And you're going to see an example of this one. We're actually, the current digital twin you have of the NFMT campus is an example of that digital twin. Another workflow is taking data-rich models and harvesting that information into the digital twin. So I'm going to describe what we've done, and this is actually what was done with our pilot project with this 18-story high-rise tower, the Collectus Tower that you have access to right now on your phone. What was done was that there was 3 steps that we did to implement this Collectus Tower. The first is using a BIM execution plan that has specifically designed data inside the BIM execution plan. So in this case, there were specific parameter requirements for the architects, engineers, and contractors to fill in. We call it LODI, level of data information. So for the architects and engineers, they have parameter requirements for LODI 300. Again, these are parameters that they would see in any typical BIM model, but here we're defining it in the BIM execution plan as a required deliverable. The architect or the contractors have LODI 400, which is manufacturing information that has to be inside the model, again, and LODI 500, which is operations and maintenance data. Again, this is information that wants to be inside the model. So in this case, air handling units, there's a list of required parameters that are defined in the BIM execution plan. It's not just we want information, it's like we want this specific information in the models. Then the next step is providing this data structure. So within the Collectus environment, it's a library of 36,000 components. Those were used to build these models. Kimon can actually go into the pre-design aspects of what was done with BIM, program to BIM, which provided basically this shell of a building, of an 18-story building with all the different apartment layouts. From there, we started creating the actual models themselves with data-rich Collectus doors and data-rich walls and air handling units and plumbing fixtures that have the data structure already built inside of them.
So Cyril,
yes, Mike, please.
can I ask a question? Or
of course.
Finish the point here.
Go right ahead. No, I was just going to say that in terms of building the content, it's a library of 36,000 components across all trades, intentionally designed with the data structure already built inside of it. So here's just images of what came out of Onuma, and these models that then were built using this Collectus library structure. Okay. So you're just seeing images here.
So here's the question related to pilot projects. Mm-hmm. How many owners have a BIM execution plan?
There are, I would say, maybe 10% of owners have BIMX plans.
How many owners know to require different levels of detail of information from their different contractors?
I would say a fraction of a percent that where the owner is defining required data deliverables, a fraction of a percent. That's been the difficulty, right?
That's because, the problem.
Right. Even owners that don't have BIMX plans, or owners that do have BIMX plans without defined data requirements, they'll say, we received the models. The problem is we don't know what to do with them because the data structure from one model to the next, from one design trade to the next, or from one AE firm to the next is always inconsistent. It's not the same. Or sometimes there's no data structure at all. And as a result, they'll output these models to CAD to dumb them down, or they just shelve them. And that's nails across a blackboard, because if those data requirements are defined from the start, these models are data rich. And typically, without using the digital twin that was described earlier, in this case, a Onuma system, it's 12 to 18 months to somehow regurgitate all this information that the architects, engineers, and contractors have provided in their PDFs and CADs, and that it just takes way too much time. With data-rich models, it's literally hours after handover that you can harvest this into a digital twin and have full access to the maps, the locations of the rooms and assets, and the data attached to them, literally within hours, using a handheld device. Okay. Any other questions, Mike?
Well, Deke has one, and it's really good to. Has the contract language changed?
The contract language would have to change. The contractor has to be involved.
No, the contract language. Contract
language. Within our BIM execution plan, it's defined in the BIMX plan. That's part of the contractual.
It has to be an insert.
Yes, into the contract itself.
There's
Correct.
language that's easy for owners to be able to do and just have that. And
Correct.
it's not that big of a contract language change. But
As long
the implications are big.
exactly right. I mean,
Then
the list
all
of
the
parameters,
contractors have to know how to do BIM.
that's exactly right. Now, if the contractors don't have BIM, there are workflows within Collectus that they can output the schedules, which you'll see in a second, into Excel. They can fill that data in and bring it back into the models themselves. The key is that the data stays inside the model, so that if an air handling unit is added or removed or changes, when the change occurs inside the model, that's the most up to date. If I'm outputting to
Oh no, Cyril has frozen. One of the things about working from your Airstream is the internet connection. So
oh no, I'm still here.
We might.
Oh, what a pain.
Oh
no, I hear you both. We're good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh, sorry, that was me.
Okay, phew. Okay. No, I was going to say the values that you saw in the requirements of the deliverable in the BIMX plan, there's nothing, there should be no surprises there as to the contractor, providing that information. We're just telling them we want that in the models themselves. And the data structure is already built. They simply have to fill it in. They drop air handling unit, they drop a rooftop unit, they fill the information in. Now, the next step is that the owner needs a mechanism to validate the models to make sure, has that information been filled in? So within this collective structure, again, this is this pilot project. There are all the schedules that exist within Collectus that are part of those models. They can be dropped in. If someone deletes them, you can drop them right back in. And they have the data structure for LODI 3, 4, and 500 already there. So here is an example of the Collectus tower, which I actually have opened right now. If you're curious to see it, we can look at that model. There are the three different LODI 300, 400, and 500 schedules already built. And of course, the size of the schedules changes depending on the number of parameters. So if I zoom out, you'll see that there are the 3, 4, and 500. The schedules, obviously the LODI 300 schedule is much smaller than the 400, than the 500. And yet that it's the same air handling unit that's dropped in, or obviously changes, but this way the model stays live and rich. And at the time harvesting occurs, the intention is we don't want to use the model to manage the facility. We want to use the model to harvest into a digital twin. And then from there, and that's literally within hours of handover to be brought into a digital twin. So here, that's the intention. Again, existing or new, if these models are data rich, the harvesting can occur quickly. And so here again, there's an example of there's an air handling unit. The parameters that are there brought into this digital twin. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Kimon.
But can you take a second to, while
Of course.
is going on, you can stop sharing and let Kimon take over if that's how you're doing it. Deke's asking about the costs and the payback. And the owner's ready for this. And I know you've got a wonderful answer for this question.
Sure. No, the costs are dependent on the square footage. It's with 1.5 million square feet of new construction. The cost is $12,000 a year. It's a subscription, but what that allows is any of the architects, engineers, or contractors have full access to the entire library anytime, and the owners, of course, too, to build the models. So it's
the cost is insignificant.
Right. It's a fraction. It's a fraction of what's possible in terms of outputting these models into a digital twin.
And what does it allow the owners to do?
The owners can define the requirements with the BIMX plan. They can then provide the entire library to any of their AEC consultants that they can build these models. They would the AEC consultants will use Collectus to build the models, again with the data structure that's there. And if they want to add new content, there are templates to make new content. There are templates to make new projects, metric and imperial, and the owner has a mechanism validating the models all through design, documentation, construction, CA, into up to handover. They can actually check the models to make sure, without being BIM experts, they can check the models for data compliance.
And the impact on the outcome, what's that benefit?
So once the models are delivered, within hours of handover, not days, weeks, or months, or years, or not at all, within hours of handover, this information is then harvested from the Revit models and brought into, again, in this case, Onuma system. And that's what we did. That's this pilot project we did with the 18-story Collectus Tower. Literally, I mean, I was shocked that it was in hours of providing it to Kimon's team. It was crazy.
Is there a cost calculation for the savings, or is it so dramatic that it's kind of immeasurable?
I mean, 6 to 18 months is hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's just, it's crazy money. Tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'll give it that. Again, if you're talking apples to apples, you know, locating all rooms, locating assets, and locating data information, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars to do literally what can be done in hours. It's quite dramatic. That's the beauty of these data-rich models.
And Kimon, before you start your presentation, can you comment on the benefits to owners?
Yeah. So apart from the time savings, if it takes 6 to 18 months, it means you don't have access to that information when your building is started up. So it's not just a time thing. The other issue, it is a risk thing. It's a standards of care that the owners are not delivering information back that's needed for day-to-day operations, which means if something bad happens, you don't have access to information to react to it. You have wild monkeys around the building or other risk factors, fires, whatever, right?
Right.
So my point of view is that not only is it a dollar savings or a total cost, which is what Deke's question is, which is important, it's also a risk factor. What's the risk of not doing this? Not only is it a risk of money, it's a risk of people's lives. And we've heard at the NFMT show, there's actually risk factors coming up even from school districts getting sued because they don't have proper locks on the doors or whatever in case they have a shooter or whatever, right? So there's all these kind of resiliency factors that come into play that if you have and I call it a dumb building because there's so much hype out there about smart buildings and smart cities. They're not smart, they're stupid. They're still stupid. And there's so much room to improve, which means we're starting almost from zero. I know there's a lot of amazing things happening, but there's only small pockets. But the technology is here.
Silos of excellence.
Silos of excellence, exactly.
And we need
So
to bring the silos down.
not only do we need to step it up. There's just no more. I mean, it's time to do it. It's just ridiculous that it's taken decades to even get to this point to get basic things going. Okay, great. Should I switch over? Oh, actually, you already see my screen, right?
Yes.
We do.
Okay, so I'm pointing to automated buildings. A lot of what I'm talking about is written in many of these articles here, and I've been posting quite a bit. I put a link in
We're not seeing your. I don't think this. We're seeing your desktop.
Oh, okay. I got Zoom technical. Okay, how about now?
Automated buildings.
There we go. Okay, yeah, so these are the articles, some I'm going to talk about today. I put the post in the link.
Highly recommend you checking these out. Kimon put the links up there. These are a series of, I consider groundbreaking articles, philosophical articles, as much as they are how-to. Highly recommend this series.
Yeah, and what we've been presenting, also, obviously there's a technical angle of how to do this, but we're past the technology. The technology is already there. That's why we think owners are the ones that need to step to the plate and ask the right questions. The right questions are not being asked. So, for example, I wrote an article about why are smart cities and buildings so dumb, and then there was a fire, and all that other stuff. So, anyway, so let's go back to the slides real quickly here. We talked about this, the fire, for example. If you look at old maps, this is from the Chicago fire. Beautiful map, static, completely out of date. today we would expect real-time information like what was shown earlier. We want to know where the fire line is advancing. We don't want post-mortem of what happened. It's too late to react if you just have static files. Unfortunately, almost every single one of our buildings out there is pretty much static. It's not real-time data, even though the technology exists to do that. And that's what we're tackling with these projects and initiatives and the open source stuff we've been talking about. So this is the beginning of the year. I went to present it at Design Futures Council, amazing conference. The head of sustainability from Google, the head of Ford Motor Company Design, Paul Doherty, well-known author and futurist. Akil, a student that's doing amazing things with open source. Tanya from Thompson Hine Partners, a partner of Thompson Hine legal side. Marty Rosmeth from Schema, well-known application out there, and myself. And the challenge we had is we have to ask the right questions. What are the consequential questions? And one thing that stood out for me was Carolyn talking about the amount of energy that data centers use is just exponentially growing. She said we've just given up on trying to match our goals. Once AI came around, it just spiked. It's just going through the roof. And then we heard just last week from Eric Schmidt of Google saying if we keep going at this pace, he told Congress that 99% of all energy will be used by super intelligent AI. In other words, AI is gobbling up all this energy. And I posted this today that today, if we look at what's being projected right now, the average US household is using $1,600 a year in electrical energy. That's our cost. If it goes up 70%, it's going to pretty much double. But I think if Eric Schmidt's forecast is correct and Carolyn's correct, it's not just going to go up 70%. And who's going to be paying for this? The big tech companies can afford it. The consumers and the businesses cannot. In other words, the owners are not going to be able to afford to run their businesses unless we solve this problem, and we need to use technology to solve it. So although we use AI a lot, we're using it for the storytelling and everything. Obviously, we're all using it quite a bit, but if we're using it for frivolous things, it just starts using more and more energy, and that's just the trend. There's no way of stopping it. So at the conference at NFMT, we talked to a lot of other technologists there, as well as owners, as well as facility managers, and heard kind of the same challenge that they all had. That, for example, Victor from the Bethesda Fire Department is talking about getting access to information about buildings. Our buildings are not talking to us. They're not telling us what they're doing, whether they're monkeys running around or equipment that's malfunctioning. If the buildings are not talking, they're not part of this new technology. They're basically just a block just sitting there without information, but the technology is there to do it. And the owners need to start asking for that. They need to start demanding. So one article I wrote, I've been involved with Cyril at the National Institute of Building Sciences with a digital twin subcommittee we've looked at the connection between BIM and digital twins. And my angle on this is AI is becoming kind of the digital twin of humanity and civilization. It's already sucking up all of our historical information. Now it's interacting with us right now, day to day, and it's starting to become agentic. In other words, it's starting to interact with information and starting to give us answers, and it's accelerating amazingly fast. It's still hallucinating. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, it hallucinates, we can't use it. But if we don't understand what it's doing, it's not going to help us. So we've been experimenting and developing ourselves on how do we use this to our advantage. But if we think of AI as a digital twin of humanity and civilization, really a mirror of us, and we can start using that as a tool to interact with it. And I'm latching onto the definition of a digital twin, which is a virtual representation of real world entities and processes synchronized at specified frequency and fidelity. And if you think in terms of that, it's really about the synchronization between the digital and the physical. If you have a physical building and it's not talking to you, you can't get information from it. If you have a physical building saying, hey, here's an asset in the building, like what was shown earlier, if you capture it in BIM, then you can start saying, well, how's that equipment doing? We need to balance the load. We need to start interacting and saving energy. But without that conversation, it doesn't happen. And it's also a system of systems. In other words, there's no single application that can be the digital twin. It's really systems need to be talking to each other, interacting with each other. And that's what we'll show you next. It's really, that's been our angle from the very beginning, that there's no single vendor, single solution, single BIM, single application that could do it all. It really has to be systems talking to each other. Any
Kimon,
thoughts on that? Mhm.
yes, this is an important part in terms of the pilot project and helping owners
Yes.
know what they should be asking for. And is that what you're going to be getting to now? And I've just stopped you
No,
from.
no, go ahead. No, I want to hear what you say about that, but I'll echo it probably.
Yeah, because Cecilia was asking about the AI. I think we need to clarify. The opening AI was a way of doing what Nick Rohn has been saying, asset management needs to be sexy. And so using AI to make movies and dancing robots, and that song, which was, was just generated, the beat, the words and everything was generated by AI, is making the asset management sexy. That had nothing to do with what Cyril was showing. Cyril was showing a human computer software process. And now Kimon is starting to talk about how AI can be understood so that owners can then start specifying AI in the process that you're about to lay out. Is that a fair description?
Yeah, it is. And because of the complexity of our of our industry and the world and our buildings, we have to be able to, and Nick actually said this right now, the storytelling. How do we tell the story? That's why we said we need to break it down. If you went to buy a car and you had to understand everything about how to take the engine apart and show you all the pieces and the gears and whatever, which is all incredibly important, they're not selling you the car, they're selling you the complexity of it without understanding what it is. And our industry, including BIM and architecture and design and engineering, we spent too much time telling the complex story and not telling the story to the owners of why they need to use this. What total cost of ownership? How do you reduce total cost? It doesn't have, you don't have to know the intricacies of how do you get BIM into operations and maintenance. But if you have the right tools, all of that goes away. And what AI does, it helps you to filter and get the mundane work done so that the complex work can be done. But it really needs to come down to storytelling and making things simple, because it's very easy to make things complex. We can write volumes about how BIM and digital twins come together, but how do we tell the story, and how do owners know to ask the right questions? Because they're not asking the right questions. They're being sold on solutions and applications and things that don't work, and the complexity of it all, and being trapped in the wrong solutions.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go into some live interaction next, just to show a little bit more. Oh, one last thing maybe. There's an article that I wrote about the 4 laws of AI, intelligent AI and digital twins. It's playing off of Isaac Asimov's iRobot. And if you look at the energy challenge that we saw earlier, AI and energy is gobbling up energy. It's going to increase costs. It's going to increase costs for us. It's going to create demand and risk because there's going to be more demand for things. Therefore, it's not really serving us. It's actually working against us. If AI is already doing this, it's already breaking some of these laws, in my opinion. We haven't figured it out. Yes, it's consuming more than we can't even stop it. That's what Carolyn said. It's already a moving train, because China and the US are competing on who's going to be the first AI and whatever, and then Google and whatever are trying to become the best, open AI and whatever. So it's an arms race that is really already creating damage, I think, to these laws, these basic laws about how do you keep things under control. Okay, so let's go live now. I'm going to be showing you a lot of different things, but maybe the first thing I'll show is this. This is Patty with the Onuma system with a bunch of other applications. This is essentially a digital twin because it's not one application, it's web-based. There's even Google Map in the background. And I'll show pieces of it, but I'll show this first. Maybe this graph view is kind of interesting because this is a view of a digital twin. Different systems talking to each other, connected to each other. So if one thing changes in one place, it filters throughout the rest of it and back again. It's this conversation, the synchronization that happens either in real time or at specified frequencies based on that definition I talked about. Are we updating the temperature every 5 minutes, every 15 minutes? Are we updating the floor plans once a year? Are we getting facility data in 18 months like we talked about, which is a failure? That would be a failure of a digital twin. You don't have 18 months worth of data and you're trying to manage a facility. So this is a kind of a graphical view that these buildings here are from one of the NIBS conferences. They're the same ones that actually, in fact, I could go right to the Collectus apartments. One of the buildings here is the Collectus apartment, which is right there on the waterfront. And if I dive into that, now I see each floor, a diagrammatic floor. And these aren't just JPEGs. This is data coming from a server feeding into another server, basically linked together. It's actually the Onuma server for the BIM server, Patty viewing it, a view even in with Tandem, if you wanted to use Tandem, of the actual model that came from Collectus, and the Onuma model of that as well too. So this is kind of and on the left side, you see each of these buildings. So you can create views for different users. This is another important piece from a digital twin perspective. You don't have to see everything. You just see the part that you're interested. If you need to find the monkey in the building, you have an app to go find the monkey. If you need to go replace something as a technician, you have another app to do that as well too. And if you need to go into the biotech lab where the monkeys escaped, you can see the room that they were in, and you can actually even drill into the actual floor plan and say, well, I want to see the first level of that. There's the building. And so this is the Patty app on the outside, the Onuma app on the inside, and other apps that are linked to it. If we have sensors and other data coming in from, I don't think they're turned on right now, but if we had a heat map, it would start changing colors here, but sensors were attached to it. Does that make sense? So here's the actual room, the biotech room, and in the Onuma app, we can actually even go in and edit things. So you can say, well, this person, if there was a person in the building, you can actually start moving them around and say, well, they moved from this room to another room, for example. So all of this becomes what Cyril mentioned. If you had a full-blown detailed model, it's great for design and construction. When you get into operations and maintenance, you need the minimum information to do that particular job. You don't have to know how to use 3D, for example, to go look at a map and say, how big is this room, or where is that piece of equipment that needs to be maintained? Any thoughts on that?
That's an important owner understanding we need to implant also.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They think of all of this as super complex, and what's happening now is it can be easy. Cyril?
No, I was just going to say, I mean, what you're looking at is the result of harvesting the BIM data into this into this digital twin structure, and you know, the owner's ability to make changes, to move occupants, to move assets, to move walls. They don't have to go back to BIM or CAD to do that. They can do it live in the database, and I think it's and you don't have to be a Revit or CADS expert to do it. And yet, as you know, 5 years from now, when there's a renovation, we can output this to a BIM graphic that could be a background placed onto the archive model for editing purposes, or to a CAD file. So so that, again, it's a mindset to manage the mapping structure live, so that if changes occur, they can be done quickly and easily. I'll pass it back to you, Kimon.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, this is the view of the model that you showed earlier, the very detailed one, which is still a valid. We're not saying it's one or the other. It depends on the use case. That's another very important piece of digital twins. There's not a single use case. There's one use case where you're designing and constructing, another use case where you're trying to transfer it over into operations. Then there's another use case of the technician trying to find that piece of equipment to maintain it. They all use different tools, but if that data is not connected in between, that's where you end up with silos. You have silo A, B, and C not talking to each other. All of a sudden you have, well, what's the piece of equipment? Oh, we don't have it in the model yet because it's taking 18 months to get it in. Oh, let's go out and hire somebody to go find that thing, which we've seen over and over, owners making that mistake. They pay for the same thing again and again and again because they don't even realize they have it. But with digital twins, if you, from the execution plan perspective and the contracting perspective, you put it into the requirements, then then everyone that's providing that consulting and tools for you allows that data to flow into the right application. Maybe another angle on data ownership is also important from an ISO perspective. Actually, and data is an asset. Therefore, you must, as an owner, declare that I own my data. And whatever application you're selling me, I want you to show how I can use that same data in other applications. Because as a vendor, I know I've seen this out there over and over again. Software tries to get you into their silo. That's the goal. I want to sell you an application. I want to get all your data in my silo, and I want to make it very difficult for it to leave. We call it the Hotel California. Check in, never check out. So execution plan wise, owners must demand that data flows regardless of what silo gets put into it. Silos aren't necessarily bad as long as you can get the data back out of the silo. But a silo that's a one-way trip is a black box, as we showed in the video earlier. Let's see, there's a lot of material we can cover, but I don't want to get everybody dizzy. Are there any questions I see some questions coming in.
Yeah, there are, and I'm going to try to, I've tried to answer some of them in there, and it kind of follows up on what you were saying right then. Cecilia is asking us, how do we get the stories from the owners? And as the Asset Leadership Network is saying, the owners have to follow an asset management governance approach. That's what is the premise of all of this. That's why this is on the Asset Leadership Network program. You have to have a strategic asset management plan that says what is the mission of your organization and how is the use of your assets going to support your mission. And a BIM execution plan should be a sub-plan of the strategic asset management plan. And owners need to become more sophisticated on running their own ships. Now, architects and contractors will always be able to tell owners, hey, your story might be a little better if you do X or Y or Z. And then, of course, that's a value add that the service providers give, but it's really got to start with the owners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if the owners can ask the right questions, there are a lot of consultants that are different domain specialists or experience. They have that experience. So, for example, architects have that experience of being able to look at complex requirements, distill them down to a design, and give the option back to the owner, right? Well, here's a great design. You're asking us for this. This is what it looks like. In that process, we typically hand over the physical building and not the data that goes along with it. So why are we building this like this? Which goes back to that 18-month problem. So by asking a little bit more, there's value that can come from the teams that you work with that can help you know, for example, once the building is built, one critical piece of information is not only how much energy we're using, but what's the structure of this floor, for example. If I don't know what the structure of the floor is, I don't know what capacity it has. In an emergency, what happens is all kinds of scenarios like that. If the building is, it's like buying a car and not having a gas gauge on it, right? Oh, I ran out of gas. Well, what do I do? Buy a new car. Well, that doesn't work like but another way that we've been doing it over the years is, since we're going into this project phase, we've been working on something called BIM storms for 17 years now. And you can go back and see all the previous years and what was done, the microgrid and everything that was mentioned earlier. If you sign, it's a free sign up and you get access to all the background stuff. And then the button here takes you to the work request that we showed earlier. This is another interface. What I showed earlier, all that complex stuff that I showed is boiled down to this, what we call the Uber interface. I'm in this building, in this apartment building here, and I want to go to the 5th floor and find something's going on the 5th floor. How do I find it? What do I do with it? It just goes on from that with simple interface. Type it in and off you go. And in the background, all this other stuff. In fact, I could show. the work orders have been coming in. This is a facility manager's view of the same data and the information that comes in about the work requests that came in from the building, all these new requests that were coming in. You could open it up and see. Somebody said, please send me the presentation. Okay, that was from a session that we had. So we use all this files that we've set up in a sandbox to be able to run the scenarios that I showed earlier right here on these types of buildings. And in Patty, we looked at, which I
Patty
closed that.
is a software from our member Patty, and Kimon is working with that ALN organizational member also, showing how collaboration is required, and don't lock yourself into a walled garden. A lot of what we're fighting is the marketing dollars of big companies that say, give all your business to us and you'll be happy. And things work well when it's just with that one company, but that's not how the world works. There's always more and different other software to be using. And you've got to be able to showcase your capability to work with others, play nicely in the sandbox.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, so I'm kind of diving through Patty here, and there's literally hundreds of thousands of different views in here. And you can filter it down and say, well, there's just one button you need to push. But in my case, I have all these buttons I'm getting everywhere. That's why it looks like there's a lot there, but it really comes down to, well, give me a view of the site plan, or give me a view of the energy use, or give me a view of the technician's view. And that's how a digital twin really should be working. It should be decomposable to smaller pieces, open connections, open source connections, so you can connect to other systems that start coming in, focused on use cases that then generate the application and be able to install apps, this is actually an interesting angle of Patty too. You can go in here and say, well, I want to install a new app, and you go to the marketplace. It's like an app store. You say, I want to have an app about BIM. Who has apps about BIM? It shows up here. Okay, I want Dabblefox for custodial, or I need the Onuma system, or I need BIM Genie. So you basically can start installing apps on top of your view of that site, of that building that is related to that building. And then you have new applications. Applications become just on the fly. You can start building functionality really quickly.
So one thing that we're showing here is the tools and processes that people are familiar with on their iPhones and their smartphones are now moving to the building industry. And the new generation of workers is expecting this. This is how they work now. And we're saying our members have this. This is where the leadership is, and leading owners need to understand this also. And we also want to let people know about the pilot project process. And we have started one. Kimon, I don't know if you're wanting to say anything about what's going on in the existing pilot project, but they did not have a BIM execution plan. So there's an opportunity to bring Cyril into that pilot project. And that's how this works.
Yeah. I don't know how, it's up to you how much you want to talk about it, but yeah, there are several pilot different things that have been going over the years. There's a new one that's starting up that's pretty exciting, that has multiple teams kind of working together, and it's going to involve many different types of consultants and tools and sensors and resiliency.
And on the fly, we saw an opportunity for another software system, and since we recognize it, we bring them in. So I know that there are other potential pilot project network members out there. So I want to say that we've set it up for this year to be really inexpensive to get involved. It's $250 to become a member of the ALN Pilot Project Network, and that's for 1 quarter. So the idea is 4 quarters at $250, but as soon as your pilot project turns into a real project, then we would like you to join the ALN at full rate. And we have ways of connecting our member organizations with owners to demonstrate these capabilities. And the things that we should be talking about, what we're doing with the pilot project in Portland, is that the owner has to agree to make the information public, that there has to be learning for the industry based on these pilot projects. And one of the exciting things about the one that we're doing is it's based on Linux Foundation open source coding brought to us through the Coalition for Smarter Buildings. So that makes it.
And maybe to add something to that too, if you're an owner and you have vendors and consultants that you're working with, you could ask them to participate in the pilot, and that way you would learn about how to expand the functionality which you have. If you're a vendor or consultant and have a solution, the baseline of getting involved is we need some kind of an open API connection. In other words, if you have a silo, great, but we need to have that plug. If you can't plug in, then maybe we'll talk later, but that's the technology is there. It's not a business, it's not a technology decision, it's a business decision. If you have especially if you're in the cloud, then you must have a connection, and it's not a free-for-all. It's basically, well, how do we connect to your data? We want to connect to that ecosystem that we showed earlier, the system of systems.
Cyril?
No, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, the pilot projects, what's nice is that what's done on the pilot projects is expandable. And I think that's the key, is that, it's a subset of something that can be implemented, campus wide. So I think that's what's exciting about the pilot from my perspective, that you get to see what we're talking about, this open architecture. What does that mean? And when Kimon was discussing Patty, I'm just thinking the custodial team needs information, that the technician needs information, that the capital planning needs information, the real estate folks need information, the occupancy people need information. Doesn't all exist in one place. This open architecture allows the custodial to exist in a separate custodial software that links into, the map, that links into the technician's information about the assets. It's an open architecture, and I think that's the key. System of systems. Can't stress that enough.
And the other thing is, again, that what owners should be asking for. They typically say, "Oh, we have a custodial, and we have a custodial system, we have a planning system, we have a CMS, we have IWMS." None of them talk to each other. We need to find another single app. They put contracts out like this. We need to contract somebody to build us some kind of super application that does everything. Nobody does everything, and they find somebody that does something. They ask the wrong question. They ask, we want a single pane of glass, or we want a proprietary one application, or we want one system. All of that is a mistake. It should never be in contract to say we want one single application, because then you're getting trapped in another new silo. What you want to say is we want applications that are true digital twins that can connect to each other. Nothing else. If somebody comes to you and say, no, you don't need any of that, we have everything, you can put everything in our system, don't go there.
So while this is about getting the most value out of your assets, it always comes down to the human behavior factor. And owners would love a single system that solves everything. That resonates with the human brain. The reality is that does not exist. We've got to help people get over that human behavior desire for a magic pill and embrace the complexity of what's happening, which is new tools are being released daily that might dramatically improve the way you work. So you've got to have a process in place to be able to incorporate that.
Yeah. We're almost at the hour. Should we wrap up? Just one quick thing is we're going to be, both of us going to be at the ASHRAE conference in Phoenix with NIST and SETI and Associates and Zara Gurbani from Penn State. We have a session on digital twins there.
Excellent. She's with, has done a lot of work with the National Institute of Building Sciences too.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's about sharing, again, sharing different approaches there.
Well, yeah, we went all the way to the edge. I was gonna play out with the video, but we don't have that time. We'll just let's see what Deke is saying. We'll talk with all of you. We're going to be doing these once a month to update you on pilot projects and maybe get some pilot projects going. So reach out to us. You can reach out to Kimon and Cyril and get things rolling that way. We're really excited about this method of informing owners how to embrace not the future, but what's possible today. Thank you, Cyril. Thank you, Kimon. Thanks, Nick, for keeping things going. And thank you to the audience. We appreciate your interest and look forward to your participation in future ALN pilot projects.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. So I see Cecilia is still on. Ryan, hi gang. Anybody want to talk? I could turn you into panelists. But we got to kick out. All right, there's Ryan. I'm going to turn Ryan into a panelist. Cecilia, I'm just going to make you a panelist. You might not even be there anymore. Hi, Ryan. You're looking sharp. I like the hat. You're on mute.
Yeah, casual day today. No meetings outside the office. So,
That's cool.
you know,
I stopped recording.
okay. Maybe you know from past meetings, but do you have an understanding between owners who have project specific BIM execution plans, usually in the contract, and versus the owner has actually got a plan in place that they keep updated?
So you heard the numbers that Cyril was given, right?
I must have missed that.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. So only 10% have requirements have BIM execution plans. And only a fraction of those are asking for the information to be available immediately through the use of their models.
But and so they're BIM execution plans that are corporate or they're project specific? Or do you know?
So it's so small that it's insignificant. I'm sure there's, out of the 10% of projects, maybe 5 are the one way and 5 are the other. And those are like sophisticated owners who are not revealing their techniques, right?
Yeah.
So, and I bet of those 10%, they're not the government owners who have to share, be transparent about what they're doing.
When you say that the pilot projects need to share data, are you worried that somebody won't do a pilot project because they have to share the data?
If they won't share the data, they won't do a pilot project, so it's not an issue.
Well, I'm thinking about like a hospital or something where they just can't, so you just won't ever get one of those.
Well, we do a pilot project on their parking garage,
I see.
you know? We can do a pilot project on a building in their parking lot, you know? If they want to understand this, we will do this for them and make it work. It is basically BIM storms with a new name.
Well, I like the idea of taking a regular building. You know, there's a few I can think of right now that are, there's City of Hope's going in the ground, and Chalk just finished a tower.
Well, let's take it to what you might be able to do. What's the name of the state park with the houses, the rent units for rent?
Yeah, actually, I can't mention it.
Oh, right.
Not
Anyway,
yet. Yeah, yeah.
so
I just was
let's-
asked.
let's approach them and say, hi, we're the Asset Leadership Network. We want to show you what's possible. We're going to do this for one of your buildings.
Yeah, I've already started the Onuma map of that.
All right, so that can be an ALN pilot project. See what I'm saying?
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And we'll
Yeah.
bring in the custodial Dabble Fox with Kimon to show them how to be able to schedule their custodial stuff.
Yeah.
And-
Right now it's word of mouth and in my brain, which, I mean, here we are. I was just thinking about it. We're 3 years away from being 20 years out from the first BIM storm that you and I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe AI will help us like get over this hump a lot faster, because all of a sudden people who are competitive with that are going to then be able to complete these plans without, you know, the enormous lift that it used to take.
So what I think is going to happen is the AI developers that Kimon is running into at the Linux Foundation are going to work with Kimon and are going to transform the building industry. AI is going to do it. And if you're not a building industry professional involved in AI, you're not going to be involved in the transformation.
So, you know, you were mentioning earlier that the younger generation is expecting this. We have, I don't know, we probably have one of the youngest mayors in the state of California right now. I don't think he's 30 years old yet.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, he's one of Matthew's colleagues from high school.
Wow.
And I just was watching, because they publicize the city council meetings now. And it was a presentation on the planning department's success. And previously it was paper-based. In August and December, they launched a digital platform to submit in plans, and they went from 54 days to 14 days. And then he added on the top of that, he goes, yeah, this should be happening in hours. So he goes, I hope we can bring, this is the city mayor, I hope we can bring AI to bear to improve this process, which, it's anybody knows Laguna Beach, that would just be insane for us to go from a place that nobody wants to build to a place where everybody hopes they can build, right?
So I don't know if we're going to be able to be involved in that, but
Well, no, what I'm mentioning it as a way to say, somebody just verified what you said about the younger generation expecting
Well-
AI and digital tools to be used to facilitate the work.
okay. So the reason why I'm with the Asset Leadership Network is because I believe that a governance structure is needed in order to create order from all of these new tools and processes. And one of our members is a former mayor of Golden, British Columbia. And now she's an asset management consultant to municipalities. So if you wanted to approach this young mayor and give say the ALN is willing to do an ALN pilot project about the value of asset management, or just an ALN executive briefing, and we would have Christina Benti, a former mayor, tell this person how excellent an asset management governance approach is.
Well, yeah, maybe offline you and I can talk about it more, because you and I have talked about the specific project. But what's interesting is that within city government and this particular project, there's some interesting crossover,
Yes.
both in application and actual people.
Does that state park reside inside your
No.
town? No. Yeah.
I wish it did, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
How
it
many people do we have on still?
none? I got rid of Cecilia, so it's just me and you.
Oh, okay. All right.
And we're
So,
not recording.
okay. Yeah, so that's the council member. I was kind of speaking as if other people were listening, but
Yeah.
that's the mayor, but one of the council members works at the park.
Oh,
Yeah.
does the park border on the city?
Yeah. It's
Oh, it does.
no, it's
I
not
didn't,
border.
it's north of it, right?
Yeah, where you and I were, it's about 2 miles south,
South?
a mile south to the actual city limit.
Yeah, right. So the park is a mile north.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're sharing a road or sewer or anything like that.
No, they're not. But
But there is a human connection between the two.
yeah, there's a bunch of people from town that work there.
Yeah.
My
Okay.
contact, that is the one I'm talking with about the project, works there. And then one of the city council members is program director, I think.
Okay. Well, we could do a very customized kick butt presentation from a nonprofit that is not selling services, that is just advocating for an asset management approach. And here's some examples of what we mean by asset management. Now, if they like anything they see, of course, they're free to reach out and join or connect with the people. But Hallie is a nice name.
Yeah. I haven't gotten to watch a lot of the ALN stuff, but I saw that Kimon and Cyril were talking. For some reason, I thought, because I saw an announcement that they're giving a talk today where they are at or was that this talk?
That's this talk.
Okay. Huh. I thought it was like going to be a composite between giving it live and it being online. But how many people listened in today?
There's about 20.
Well, that's all right.
That's
It's not 3. But how many people do you get looking up the video afterward? Do you
we can get within a month it can be hundreds.
It seems all natural to me. I mean, we've been paying attention to it for so long. It's just like, yeah. But yeah, let's you have time to take this offline. I'll call you back on WhatsApp or something.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.